And the Broncos. It is Josh Allen and the Bills trying to prove that Super Bowl window has not closed, and it starts again with facing Bo Nix and the Broncos. It doesn't start. It started with Jacksonville. That was sad for me. And then it continues with the Broncos. And they meet again in this postseason because this is a rematch of the 2024 wild card rematch there where the Bills won 31-7 at home. The Broncos scored on the opening drive and then seemingly disappeared after that. Buffalo had possession of the ball for over 40 minutes of that game, scored on 6 out of 7 drives. Of course, we're not counting kneels or any of that, but the Broncos pass rush just could not phase Josh Allen. He was sacked twice in that game, but did not turn the ball over once. So we're wondering if this version of the Denver Broncos will be able to hang. So we're getting a look at different matchups and things that we're really honing in on in terms of who has the edge. Of course, if you have Josh Allen, the reigning MVP, you certainly got a chance. But this is an elite defense, the #1 rush offense against the top 2 rushing defense. We're going to go down the list here and look at these matchups and discuss who has the edge. And for that, let's welcome in Lige Duzable and Danny Cannell. And we are starting, of course, with #1 at the top of that list with the reigning MVP, Josh Allen, going up against one of the best defenses here. So, Lige, how is Josh Allen going to deal with that, and who has the edge when you're looking at those 2 factors here for this matchup?
Yeah, Jacqueline, it's hard to go against Josh Allen after what we saw last week. So I'm going to give him the slight edge, even though, I've been on the record saying this is one of the most elite defenses in all of football. But we saw him last week put on that Superman cape. And for me, him putting on that cape is living within the offense, trusting everybody that's on the offense. Now, they've dealt with a slew of injuries, but I saw MVP like Josh Allen last week versus Jacksonville. He took what the defense gave him. If the first read was open, he took it. He did a really good job, DK, of staying ahead of the chains. And when he needs to be mobile, he can do that. Now, I believe he does have like a sprained foot, but he added 30 yards rushing. So that's the thing about man coverage. If you guard Josh Allen in man coverage, you have to have a spy because he can hurt with his mobility. I love that Denver Bronco defense, but when Josh Allen decides to put that cape on, there's not too many better in the league.
It's hard to say any quarterback would have the edge against a defense that has 68 sacks on the season, that's been talked about in historic perspective as one of the best defenses of all time. But I totally agree with you. I think Josh Allen being the most, there is one thing that drives defenses crazy, and it is a mobile quarterback. And we're not just talking about a quarterback who can move around a little bit and escape. We're talking about somebody who can do it in multiple ways because he's quick enough to extend plays. He's big enough to run you over. If you sometimes it takes more than one tackler to bring him down because he's so big and physical. And one thing you mentioned there too, and this is where I think Josh Allen has gotten so much better as he's progressed throughout his career. If you're a quarterback and you're growing and it's man coverage, your last option, like you're going through your progressions, your last option is always, if everybody's covered, I can run. Some quarterbacks don't even realize that, or they can't take advantage of it, where sometimes you might get to that last outlet, it's the back out of the backfield, or it's a swing route outside, but you've got in the back of your mind, hey, I know it's man, I can get them, which I totally agree for you. I would be shocked if the Broncos don't have a plan for Josh Allen running the football, but then if it's one spy against Josh Allen, all it takes is him to break one tackle or to miss one, and all of a sudden he rushes for 10 to 15, 20 yards. So I think it's the unique skill set that Josh Allen brings to the table, which is why I would give them the edge.
And Josh Allen has been sacked 40 times. That is the most in his career, so we'll see how it all comes to a head. I want to talk about the #1 rushing offense here. Shout out to James Cook. Lige, I know you have been shouting that for a long time, that James Cook is really the X factor here, or one of them for this team, going up against the #2 rushing defense. Lige, you mentioned it. Josh Allen putting on that cape against Jacksonville's rush defense. So, Danny, what are your expectations for Josh Allen going up against Denver here based off of what we saw last week from him?
I mean, I would expect more of the same. He's playing at an elite level. When you see him, Duz has talked about this all week. We've talked about it together, his ability to make the right decisions. But I do think this probably will be a bigger struggle to run the ball against this Denver defense. And I know James Cook have been awesome, and he's been able to do it. But I would almost expect the bulk of their rush yards to come from Josh Allen scrambling rather than for them lining up and running the football. But when you see Josh Allen starting to get through and see where he's not trying to do much, where he is is not, forcing the football and he's not making those big mistakes, that's when he's at his best. But I do think in order for Buffalo to win, I do not envision them lining up and running it through the Denver Broncos rush defense. I do think they'll have to be a little bit more multiple. I do think they'll have to find out different ways to get the ball down the field, which in large part will come from Josh Allen spreading the football around.
Yeah, this attacking style defense with defensive coordinator Vance Joseph, it's going to be tough to run the ball against them. They have some true dogs up front on that defensive line, and I'm with DK. I think the edge has to go to the Denver Broncos. I know people always talk about them getting after the quarterback with those 68 sacks. They're just as good in stopping the run, and with Dre Greenlaw being close to 100%, he's a physical asset in the run game as well at the linebacker position and so is Talanoa Hufanga, who comes down from that in-the-box safety position as well. So I'm going to give the edge to the Denver defense in stopping the run against James Cook, who's been one of the most explosive backs in football this season.
All right, so if we flip this, Lige, do you think the Broncos run game can capitalize against this Bills run defense?
When you look at it, Jacqueline, your Jacksonville Jaguars, I thought this is where they dropped the ball because they had it going in the first half versus Bills defense. And when you look at the Broncos offense, they have struggled to run the football. But I am going to give the edge to them because the Buffalo Bills defense has been atrocious against the run. They're giving up nearly 140 yards on the ground. This is a big game when you look at McLaughlin and R.J. Harvey, they got to be able to get on the perimeter and get some hay, make some hay in the run game. And also Bo Nix, he has to be a part of the run game. Would not be surprised if Sean Payton threw him in there on a couple design quarterback runs, more specifically in the red zone. Again, Jacksonville had its way in the first half. For some odd reason last week, they went away from the run game. Both of their running backs averaged over 6 yards per carry in that game. Only 14 carries between the two, DK. If you're the Denver Broncos, you got to get upwards of 25 to 30 carries in this game.
Totally agree. You know what else you're doing when you're running the football? You ain't giving the ball to Josh Allen. I think that has to be a concerted effort of trying to control the time of possession, trying to control the tempo of the game, trying to extend long scoring drives to keep it out of Josh Allen's hand. And if they can't take advantage of this Buffalo run defense, which has been one of the worst in the NFL and one of their biggest issues, then you start worrying absolutely about Denver's ability to win the football game. And I totally agree as well with Bo Nix, who is mobile, who has shown the ability to run the football. I do think you have to have some designed quarterback runs to kind of open that up even more. So I would definitely give the edge to the Broncos rushing attack, including the running backs and Bo Nix combined in there.
Yeah, and R.J. Harvey, by the way, averaging 2.4 yards per attempt
Pride
over the
of
last
UCF
2 games.
You already know.
Come on.
You know it. You know it.
Go Knights, charge on.
See it.
Let's talk about Bo Nix. Sorry, Lige. Going up against the Bills' #1 pass defense, because the Bills don't really allow much from opposing quarterbacks once they get outside of the pocket, Lige. So how do you think it all comes to a head here? Who do you give the edge to?
Now, this is a funny one, right? Because when you look at it, the Denver Broncos offense has given up the least amount of sacks. And when you talk about sack differential, they're plus 45 in that manner. But I am going to give the edge to the Bills because when you turn on that tape, man, nobody disguises pre and post snap more than the Buffalo Bills. And you know they're going to be in cover too, but it's inventive in how they get to it. They dip to it in a manner of ways. So Bo Nix is going to have to be really smart with the football. We saw Trevor Lawrence have those 2 picks. One, he got fooled in zone coverage by the linebacker dropping it, Zach Thompson, which was cover 2, was an inverted cover 2. So I'm going to give the edge to the Bills defense, not because of their pass rush, because their pass rush has really struggled, but it's the way they're able to pre-snap and post-snap disguise to change the look up on the quarterback. And we've seen the last couple weeks, this Denver offense has actually struggled. It's been real conservative, a lot of screen plays, not a lot of passes down the field. I think Bo Nix is going to have to try to push the ball down the field to open things up. So I'm going to give the slight edge to the Bills, more specifically their secondary.
Yeah, this to me is one of the biggest chess matches inside the game with Sean Payton. What type of game plan does he script out for Bo Nix, who has been pretty conservative all season long? Like, that's been his biggest bugaboo, is how his accuracy drops off dramatically when he tries to throw the ball downfield. Early in the season, he's missing guys running wide open for touchdowns, which can be the difference in the game. I think you have to give the edge to the Bills. I'm curious to see if Payton goes against the grain a little bit, because Bo Nix has been, they've almost supplanted supplemented the run game with the short pass game. Buffalo knows this. So what are you going to do? They're going to script up a big play or two, and whether they hit them or not probably determines whether Denver wins the game or not.
All right, so we've looked at so many different factors and head-to-head matchups, who has the edge, but it all comes down to who is going to win the game. Broncos slightly favored at home. Danny, give us the pick. Kick us off.
I'm going with Josh Allen and the Bills. I do think their defense does enough. I'm not completely sold on Bo Nix on this stage. I know he's had some games and some moments bringing his team back from behind, but some of those moments that he needed were because he struggled for the first 3 quarters. On this stage, this magnitude, and I do think Josh Allen is able to evade that Denver Bronco pass rush, able to make enough big plays, trust him on this stage more enough. Even that, it is the best home field advantage in the NFL. Playing in Mile High, they've been desperate for this sort of atmosphere for a while. It is going to be absolutely insane, but I'll take the Bills. They broke that 30-year drought, road playoff wins last week against Jacksonville. I think they get a 2-game streak on the road this weekend in Denver.
So Jacqueline and DK, the script writers, got me a little nervous because this is how it played out last week, too. The Bills, remember, they were favored to start the week, but then as the week progressed, Jacksonville became favored. Well, the beginning of the week, the Bills were favored in this game, and now towards the end of the week, the Denver Broncos are favored. I'm taking the Denver Broncos. I know I picked Josh Allen because he's Superman at times over that defense, but that defense comes at you in waves. And always look at teams that have played a similar play style, right? You go back to that Houston Texans game. They have a similar play style than the Denver Broncos, and they were able to really get after Josh Allen in that game. And we talked about it, DK. The Denver offense the last couple of weeks has been real conservative. I think Sean Payton has been holding stuff back to get ready for the playoffs. We saw earlier in the year versus the Kansas City Chiefs, Bo Nix did push the ball down the field, and the offense looked really good. I believe there'll be more of that. I believe they'll get the run game going because at his heart, Sean Payton wants to run the ball. Give me the Denver Broncos at home. You talked about it. It's hard to win in Mile High. And every year, the Denver Broncos have gone 10-2. They've made a trip to the Super Bowl.
Danny, we appreciate it. The guys are on opposite